streaming. This is session 17 of our Midlands game. Currently, our motley assortment of heroes are exploring the island of Emerald, and in particular the region known as the Dolmenwood, a strange forest where winter seems to have no purchase, that is inhabited by all manner of strange and often fey inhabitants. They've had numerous adventures, including reuniting a fairy princess with her beloved in return for a cure for the plague back in Great London. And they've also recruited a goblin from the realms of fairy known as Smudge, who is now serving them as something of a retainer, which is lucky because they lost or misplaced, I suppose you would say, most of their other retainers when they were attacked shortly after arriving in Emerald by a huge band of beastmen. Their large Slavic warrior retainer sort of sold his life, presumably, dearly so that they could escape, and with the first mate of the ship, Cartwright, they were able to escape, although unfortunately Cartwright died later of his wounds. They then explored the small village of Prigwort, and after many drunken shenanigans there, Big Mick ended up being caught in flagrante delicto with two of the local milkmaids, and after their quite irate father turned up, he was forced into a crossbow wedding with one of the young women. But Mick seems to actually be quite liking the thought of that, since he thinks he's on to inherit a dairy, and he's even maybe thinking, wow, do I really want to go back to Great London where I'm like a little fish in a big pond, or do I want to be here and remain Lord of the Dairy? Who knows? Now, unfortunately, we're down a couple of players tonight. It's Collins, who plays Big Mick's birthday, so he's not available. And unfortunately, earlier on, Ian, who plays Lieutenant Richard Uffington, is having mad problems with his internet connection. But we are going to soldier on regardless. We still have Rob playing the Gaelite Friar Dunston, a holy man wielding a holy sword of goodness for Gale. And lurking in the shadows accompanying him, we have that waif-like master of not hitting people with an axe, Jackdaw the assassin. So, when last we left them, they had travelled to the site of a ruined abbey dedicated to St. Clewd, a little-known saint that Friar Dunston was able to recall a few facts of, but it's a fairly obscure saint back on the Havenlands, although he seems to have more of a following here. They explored this site, which they had been told by the local practitioner of the arcane at Prigwort that there was some sort of unwholesome aura or air about this place, but it seemed confined to the sort of ruins and the ground of this abbey. They travelled there, they explored a bell tower, where they found a motley assortment of urchin-like children who were collecting dead animals and then pushing human teeth that they dug up from a nearby graveyard into the mouths of these animals and gifting them to this odd but strangely not evil creature that appeared to be some sort of humanoid that could form itself from a flock of crows. And this strange humanoid was collecting these dead animals with teeth and sort of hanging them around the top of the bell tower. When pressed and its collection was interfered with, it did inflict some minor damage on our heroes, but once they backed away from the collection, it seemed happy to let them go about their business. They explored a mausoleum belonging to a once great abbot of this site and encountered a strange, shadowy, fey-like creature there. And after a bit of discussion with that, they left and began making their way towards the large ruined chapel. And that's where we left off. It's where we're going to pick up this evening. So just to keep the Lieutenant and Big Mick out of it, so we don't have people playing like mad multiple characters, I'm going to say that they're going to be exploring the rest of the ground and sort of keeping a lookout while you guys are exploring the Abbey, if that's fine with you guys, just to keep things nice and simple.
Yeah, okay. Makes sense.
So, as you guys head towards this Abbey, you can see that time has obviously taken its toll on this building. The once great walls, and you can still see some faded remnants of the ancient architecture. The walls are crumbling, there's lichen and moss growing all over it. Large parts of it are exposed to the sky. The roof is all but gone. It's little more than a framework of the building it once was. A few sort of jagged shards of wall jutting out of the soft earth. Okay. What do you guys want to do?
What do you think? You want to do some stealth, or should we do some...
I think it's probably best if you go first, because, as we know, Gale goes with you.
Okay. So I will, as quietly as possible, and play armor.
So not very then?
No, not at all. I will approach the door kind of from the side and then stick my head around the corner and see what I can see inside.
Okay, now you can actually peer through the gaping holes in the wall. It looks as though the roof itself was destroyed centuries ago, and it's strange, but as you look around you can actually see fragments of like the timbers and the slate off the roof, and as you're sort of poring over them and getting a bit of a closer look, Friar, sort of looking in through the gaps in the wall, amongst all of the vines and the climbing plants and like the sickly looking patches of mushrooms that are growing up in the dampness hereabouts, it looks as though the roof sort of collapsed inwards, sort of like around a central point, as though something sort of like hit the roof and just caved it in, and you can still see fragments of these once great wooden beams, these rafters that have collapsed down. It makes the going a little bit hazardous. I mean, you're in no danger, but you're having to sort of like pick your way across these beams and these patches of moss.
And is it clear to us which part of the Abbey the roof collapsed in?
It's not clear from your present location because you're having to like peer around this jumble of beams and there's vines growing over them, and nature's started to reclaim this building. It's obviously been this way for like, you guess, easily a couple of 100 years. It's very overgrown. Okay. There's places where you can barely see the stone because it's so covered in moss and vines.
Okay. Are any of these holes big enough for me to climb through and play armor?
Yeah, there's
from the door.
Yeah, there's huge gaping holes in the walls. You could easily climb through some of the larger ones.
Okay, so I think I'd like to kind of climb in around this southwest kind of corner, into what would be a side part of the chapel.
Yep, that is absolutely fine. No problems. You climb in through one of the huge rents in the side of the chapel, and you find yourself, after some time picking your way across it, you find yourself walking through the aisles of the nave and the transept. Through the sort of vegetation, which has obviously been growing here for quite some time, it's well established. You can just about make out in patches that are a little bit clearer what appear to be the remnants of what must have once been beautiful mosaics, tiled mosaics, the colour now long faded, set into the floor. As you look across a few of them, you recognise a few depictions of a figure that you assume must be St. Clewd, since it has the halo that's stereotypical of representations of a saint. Unfortunately, much of them is covered by fungus, vines, moss, etc. As you make your way forward, you stumble across another patch of mosaic, and I'm going to ask, can you please roll me a d6?
Tree.
Okay. As you're wandering further in, you suddenly look down and you can see that as part of this mosaic there's tiled lettering on the floor, and it says "The Pure Unfettered," and then there's some sort of scene sort of set above it all on the floor, but the actual seed itself is overgrown with moss and vines.
So can I, using a piece of timber, try and scrape off the moss and the vines and see if I can see the scene?
You most certainly can. You look around, you pick up a bit of these timbers and you start scraping off some of the moss. After a short period of time, although bits of the mosaic are missing, they've obviously been damaged or lost, you can see what appears to be a scene showing a middle-aged looking man with a short white beard. Again, he has the distinctive halo around his head. He appears to be standing in the centre of the mosaic, and he's pointing with his right hand to what appears to be a group of soldiers dressed in the sort of Goman lamellar armour style. And as he's pointing at them, the soldiers are sort of going like that and recoiling away from him. To the right, lying at the feet of the warriors, several young men and women are shown with shackles around their feet.
Okay.
Whilst the friar's examining this mosaic, what's Jackdaw doing?
I think because we know that there's a whole lot that's weird about this place.
Oh yeah.
I am literally shadowing the friar because I don't want to go off on and do something that will set off something else. So I figure that because he's got his eye on the mosaic, I'm gonna stick around and watch his back, basically.
Okay, no problems at all. So you're sort of shadowing, you're like lurking in the shadows of these large sort of this stone skeleton of the building.
Now that we're inside, do we have any idea where it collapsed or which part of it?
Okay, as you continue making your way through, you can see at the far end of the church, in what must have once been a closed off chamber but is now exposed to the elements, there's what looks to be perhaps a hole, or maybe it was once a stairwell, but it looks as though something sort of like smashed into the ground and it's bored a hole in the ground. There's just this large pit, although it's now overgrown with vines, but you can just sort of make out through the spaces that there's this dark hole leading downwards.
Okay. And is there anything else in it before I look at the hole? Have I missed?
You do a little bit more scouting ground, and at first what you take to just be like a pile of vines, as you move up to it and peer around, you can see it actually looks to be an old sort of antique church organ, but it's like covered over with this thick covering of these dark green vines.
Okay. If I press the buttons, does it work?
Okay, you press one of the buttons and you like obviously pump the foot pedal, and after a while there is a sort of wheezing, groaning, very, very unhealthy sound from the no doubt clogged and sort of badly rusted pipes of the organ. However, that's followed by a loud squawking sound, what appear to be several groups of slightly odd-looking crows, perhaps, of a sort of dark, sort of charcoalish grey colour, that have obviously been nesting in the organ, are disturbed by your attempt to play and sort of flock upwards from the organ with like a loud.
Do they look similar to the birds we've seen in the bell tower?
They look a little similar, yeah.
Okay.
After a short while, as you sort of like release the key on the organ, these grey crows start sort of settling around on the remnants of the beams, and they're sort of all perched on there, sort of like looking down at you where you are on the organ.
Okay. Okay, so then I think I would like to go and examine the hole. and maybe have a look down and see. So I want to get close enough that I can see into it, but not so close that there's any chance I'll fall in.
Okay, that's not a problem. You look down through the hole and you can see that it must have once had a stone staircase heading down, but it's long since sort of crumbled away. The drop must be at least 20 feet down to the floor below, although you can just about make out signs of worked stone below. So there obviously is like a basement layer, or perhaps, as is often the case in these tombs, there's like a crypt or something below them. But one thing does strike you, as you sort of look down through the hole, about 10 foot down, there's this strange sort of shimmering, almost like ripple in the air that seems to like go entirely over the hole horizontally. For a moment you think, oh, maybe the lower level's flooded and that's water, but as you look at it, it doesn't look like water. It looks more like a sort of heat haze, but instead of sort of rising upwards as you'd expect, it's like horizontal, like a layer just below the hole.
Okay. Okay. Can I take a little pebble and drop it down into this haze and see what happens to it?
Yep, you drop the pebble down through the haze. It falls through it easily as though there's no impediment, and then rolls to a stop on the floor about 20 foot below.
Okay. Okay. I'm trying to see if I have any rope. No, that was
If you don't, there are like multiple, like loads of vines around, but obviously you're not sure how sort of what the tensile strength of those vines is.
Okay, so yeah, so I think what I'll do is I'll try and put some weight on the vines and see if I get the sense that they'll hold me and my armor.
Okay, roll me a d6.
6.
You find a sort of sturdy length of vine. You give it like a couple of test tugs, put a little bit of your weight on, lean out a little bit. It seems pretty stable. It's quite a nice thick sort of vine. You think it'll probably take your weight?
And then I'll just nod at Jackdaw and I will just drop into the hole. What I would like to do when I get as far as the haze, if I haven't fallen by then, is just kind of see if there's any heat coming off it, or if I get any kind of sense of magic or anything from it.
Okay, there. Are you casting like a detect magic rune?
Yes, I am.
Because I am going to say, normally I wouldn't make you make another roll to see whether you can hold on to the vine. However, if you're going to be like doing an incantation at a prayer, effectively, I'm going to ask you to roll another d6. If you get a 1, you'll have fallen off. So obviously you have to like move your hands and do prayers and whatnot.
No, another 6.
Okay, you are grand. So you do your detect magic. You're not feeling any heat off this haze, and it's just like a few inches below you now, and you're sort of like you're holding your hand above it, one hand on the vine, as you're sort of like chanting in the name of Gale, and you don't get any sense of magic from it, but you definitely get this sort of horrible like queasy feeling in the pit of your stomach. And as you're sort of peering at it, you can see that as you're looking through this haze, everything beyond it, so the floor below, has this ever so slight sort of magenta tinge to it, as though you're sort of like looking through some sort of colour filter, but it's very slight.
Okay. So if I touch it, what does it feel like?
Okay, you put your hand into it, and as it sort of goes through the haze, you feel a very slight sort of resistance for a couple of seconds. No more than if there was like a slight wind sort of buffeting you on like a windy day. But it does nothing to impede the motion of your hand, and once you've passed beyond it, you've got your hand through the haze. Seems to be alright.
Does my hand have that magenta
Indeed,
tint once it's...
where your sort of arm's gone through it, it has got this little slight magenta tinge to it.
Okay.
Can you make me a constitution roll?
Ooh. Uh, 10.
Okay. Again, this sort of you have this like really sort of quite sort of nauseating, queasy feeling in the pit of your stomach for a few moments as your hand passes through it, but after a few seconds it seems to pass. But as you're sort of like looking at your hand, like I say, your forearm is through this, it's almost so like you're seeing your hand sort of like vibrating ever so slightly. Although you know that you're holding it still. So it must presumably be some visual effect of this haze or whatever it is.
Okay. So I guess what I'll do then is I'll just continue down through the haze towards the floor.
Yep, no problem at all. You make your way down the rest of the vine. You find yourself in what appears to be a worked stone corridor. It's about 5 foot wide. It appears to continue on for about maybe 10 foot in front of you. Then it turns sharply to your left.
Okay.
You don't feel any ill effects. And once you're actually inside this haze, you can see everything has this slight magenta tinge, but beyond that, it doesn't really appear to be causing you any problems.
And it's not detecting as magic at all, is it?
No, although every time you sort of concentrate on it in the way you do when you're detecting magic, again, for a few moments you get this queasy feeling in the pit of your stomach. It feels unnatural and definitely not right, but not in the ways you've come to associate with your traditional sort of arcane energies.
Okay. And there's only one path out of the current room, for want of a better expression.
Yeah, like I say, corridor heads up, then turns to the left sharply.
Okay. So I will, without waiting for Jackdaw to decide what he's doing, I will cautiously head up that passageway and have a quick look around the corner.
Okay, that is absolutely fine. So, let's make a quick roll. Okay, as you continue making your way forward, you can see, so as you turn in a right angle, you see that the corridor continues for about another 10 feet. Then it breaks off into a T-junction heading to the north and to the south. But as you continue moving, you can see what appears to be perhaps rags maybe, or like a pile of clothing, sort of at the point where the T-junction splits.
Okay. It's dark down here, is it?
It's a little bit dim down here, but this strange magenta sort of radiance seems to fill this place, giving you like enough sort of dim light to navigate by.
Okay. So I will approach the rags, and from about 3 feet away, I'll examine a little bit more closely.
Okay, as you get closer, you can see that the bunch of rags is actually a man wearing monk's robes, a young-looking man. He appears to be lying on the ground. As you move closer, he sort of turns in your direction, and he stares roughly in the direction of the sound of your footsteps. But you can see where his face is. He has like no eyes. It's just smooth flesh. And he looks around, and he's like, "Who's there? Who's there? But Bowls Holy, who is it?"
How are you, my son? I am Friar Dunston from London.
He says, "Oh, praise be to Gale. I'd long given up any hopes of finding anyone in this cursed place. He says, my name is Brother O'Gowan. I'm a pilgrim. I travelled here, I don't know how many days ago. But I can't see. Where are you? And he's sort of vaguely sort of like reaching out sort of in the direction your voice came from, but he obviously can't actually see you. He's like,
okay. So I will reach out and grab his hand.
As you do that, he sort of like grabs hold of your sort of arms with his hands, just sort of going like that, as though to like assure himself that you're real and you're actually there. He's like, oh, Gale be praised.
Indeed. Tell me, how did you come to lose your sight?
He says, I don't know what happened. I don't even know how long I've been here for. I was wandering through this place, and I noticed this strange pigmentation all around me, and it seemed to get stronger the deeper I went into this place. And then as I wandered through, my vision started failing, and then everything went dark, and I managed to find my way back here, but without my sight, I've been lost. I don't even know how long I've been down here for. I thought I was finding my way back towards the exit, but I keep getting turned around, and I keep hearing these strange noises.
Oh, what strange noises are you hearing?
He says, I'm not sure you'll believe me if I tell you.
I've seen many a strange thing, young man.
He says, well, I keep hearing voices. Some of them I recognise, people I've known in my past. Others are animal sounds. I don't know where they're coming from.
Okay. Well, let us get you above ground. I'm guessing he's fairly underweight and what's the word for it?
He doesn't appear particularly malnourished, to be honest.
Okay.
He looks to be, aside from the fact that he has no eyes, just like smooth skin there, like not even any eye sockets. It's just like featureless skin there. Aside from that, he appears to be an otherwise pretty healthy young man, just wearing like your normal sort of monk robes, like a brother in one of the many orders of Gale would wear.
Okay.
He looks like he's got a few like bruises and scrapes on him, but as he says, he's been fumbling around in here, not being able to see. So.
Okay. So I will lift him up onto my shoulder and bring him back to the vines.
Okay.
And then attempt to climb up with him on my shoulder and get him outside the magenta tint if I can at all.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. You carry him back up to the surface. Jackdaw, are you waiting on the surface, or did you follow down?
I think I wasn't going to go down, but presumably if the sound carries,
Yes, yeah.
then I would have started to make my way down.
Okay, so you're just about starting to make your way down,
Yep.
and you see at the bottom of these vines, like below this sort of magenta haze, you see the armoured form of Friar Dunston, like carrying this blind monk, this pilgrim, this young man, on his shoulders, sort of standing at the bottom of the vine, like looking up at you. As you look up through the haze, you can just about make out Friar, the shimmering outline of Jackdaw just getting ready to like lower himself down the vines.
Okay.
So, what are we doing?
I found this pilgrim. You'll remember that the monk in Prigsworth said that he had passed through a couple of weeks ago. This magenta tint or whatever unnatural seems to have robbed him of his eyesight. So I have brought him out in the hope that maybe we'll be able to cure him at some stage. And then I will put him down on the floor somewhere relatively comfortable and just ask him to wait for a few minutes while I find out what's causing all of this unnatural occurrences.
Yes, of course, and you see him sort of going like that, sort of touching the walls near to himself, just to like reassure himself of his surroundings.
I'll also give him a small bit of food and some water so that he can.
He sort of holds, as you sort of press the food in his hand, and he realizes what it is. He says, "Oh no, that's fine. I ate yesterday when I was in Prigwort."
Yesterday when you were in Prigwort?
Yes, that's right. I stopped there. I spoke. I'm sorry, I forget his name. I spoke to the father at the church there, and he. I explained to him that I was trying to get back in touch with my faith by visiting some of the older sites of Gale, and that I'd heard of the Abbey here, and he gave me some rough directions, and then I travelled straight here.
Well, that can't have been yesterday, because it's more than a day's travel from Prigwort to here.
He says, well, I'm sure I've only been down there. I mean, I'm neither hungry nor thirsty. I can't have been down there for too long. But I don't know. I've been stumbling around in the dark for I don't even know how long. I could be wrong. It's just difficult to tell.
Okay. The Drig bolt and stuff that we see in the slime, is that the same kind of magenta tint as what we're seeing here? Okay.
It's a similar colour, yeah.
So perhaps this unnatural stuff has maintained you for a while.
It says, I really don't know. I mean, I was drawn here by the old legends about St. Clewd and the Black Unicorn.
The Black Unicorn?
Yes,
that's not one I've heard.
Surely, and he sort of like says, surely as a man of Gale, you must have heard it. There's an ancient legend that says St. Clewd came here when this place where the Abbey was, but before the Abbey was built, this place was menaced by an evil creature that took the form of a black unicorn. So, according to the legend, Sir Clewd came here and he fought against this beast, but with its hellborn strength, it nearly overcame him, and with the last sort of dying breath, he called upon Gale, thinking not of himself in his dying moments, but only of the people that he was failing to save, and he beseeched Gale that if he was to die, let Gale also strike down this devilish creature. And Gale's wrath descended from the heavens on the creature, consuming both it and St. Clewd in one mighty burst of holy light. I think it was maybe 10 years after that, if what I've heard is correct, that in memory of this, St. Clewd's followers built this abbey here.
Okay. Is he the same guy who was famous for stopping a dragon with words? Or is that the saint from the priest in...
No, that's a different saint.
Okay. It's not at all confusing.
One thing you've been noticing, obviously, like I say, there are some fundamental differences between the churches of Gale here on Emerald and on the Havenlands, is saints on the Havenland, they're sort of minor figures in the church. I mean, they're respected for like their holiness, etc., but they're sort of relatively minor figures. The worship focuses almost entirely on Gale, whereas the saints seem to have a lot bigger role here in Emerald. So, like, instead of people being like you when you make your blessings, you call directly upon Gale to achieve your effects, whereas people here seem to view sort of saints as like an intermediary between them and Gale. So saints have a much bigger role here.
Okay. Interesting. So wait here, brother. I will return forthwith. I just need to understand what has befallen this place.
Yes, of course.
And with that, I will drop back down the vine and go back to the T-junction.
Okay, if you drop back through the shimmering, make me a constitution roll.
Okay. Oh, that's not good.
Okay. So let me get out Johannes' favourite book.
Yeah, boy.
What is it?
The Metamorphica.
Okay.
Just give me a second. Okay, can you please roll me a D1000?
This is the good shit.
$179.
Okay, 179. $179. Okay. Okay, that's fine. You seem unharmed.
Okay.
You pass through the shimmering field. You do feel a little bit strange past it, and you get sort of like a brief sort of sensation of like itching, sort of around here.
Okay.
But it lasts for like a couple of seconds. You know, but your vision's fine. You seem fine.
And if I touch my skin, does it feel?
It feels fine. The itching passes after a couple of seconds. Everything
Okay.
seems grand.
Okay, cool. So, so then I'll drop back down to the T-junction and see if I can see anything north or south.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. Whilst you're doing that, I'm going to ask Jackdaw, can you please make me a wisdom roll?
Let's see. 16.
Okay, so the friar, as he's heading down, he sort of like he stops for a moment as he's like doing that. Now the friar doesn't really notice this; he seems quite distracted. However, briefly, as he's sort of like scratching his face, he looks up, and obviously you're looking down to like keep an eye on him. For a brief second, although he doesn't like shut his eyes as he's sort of going like that, you see what appears to be like a second sort of like set of like eyelids go.
Yep.
Almost like, you know, like cats have that second sort of eyelid.
Yeah, and I think some lizards do as well. Yeah.
It's only for a second, but then they sort of open again, and he seems perfectly normal.
Okay, and then he continues on.
Yep, indeed.
Yep.
You continue down.
I'll come down and start following him.
Okay, splendid. Can you also make me a constitution roll?
Honestly, probably not.
Nah, that's okay.
Yeah, so 12, I guess, because if it's not assassin related, I guess.
No, it is not assassin related. Yeah. Okay, so
it's not, but it could kill me. So there's that.
can you also roll me a D1000?
Mm, 172.
172. Okay. Roll me a D8. And then a D4.
Okay. So that's 5 and then a 4.
Okay, nice. As you head through the field, you for a brief moment get a similar sort of itching sensation, but it's like right in the small of your back.
Yeah, I will ignore it.
Okay, absolutely fine. Now, Friar, can you please make me a wisdom roll?
Good times.
17.
Okay, so obviously you can see like Jackdaw's back, 'cause he's like goes back to you coming down the vine. For a few moments, you briefly see his sort of his cloak and his garments are in the small of his back appears to like move and sort of undulate slightly as though there's something underneath them.
Okay. Okay. And would I have seen it happen as he passed through, or
It was a few seconds after he passed through the shimmering.
okay? So Jackdaw, did you feel a funny sensation when you passed through the haze?
Define funny.
I felt itchy around my eyes, and I just noticed as you were coming down that something moved under your cloak at the back. You know, the small of your back.
I guess, but I put that down to the new clothes.
Okay.
Maybe
So
I
do you have a
twisted
look?
my. What you wanna? Okay, and then I turn around. I get the captain. I think we settle on. So I get the captain, and see if there's anything there.
Okay.
Well, with the help of the
of course.
Friar.
Okay, so as you lift up your garments at the back, you see in the small of Jackdaw's back is what appears to be a small cluster of thin, dexterous tentacles about yay long, coming from the small of his back. As the as the garments are lifted up, they're sort of like, if his back's there, these tentacles are sort of like that, and it was presumably them you saw moving.
Okay. Okay, so I'll tell Jackdaw that he has tentacles that looks like multiple tails on a donkey.
So what I'll do is I'll get one of my knives and I'll just like offer it to the friar. It's like, well, cut them off then.
Okay.
Yeah,
Are you sure?
the friar looks slightly sceptical when you offer him the knife.
Are you sure? That could be dangerous.
Well, I suppose yes. Let's get out of here first.
Yeah, let's see what's causing the havoc, and then we can. Okay.
Okay, so you lower your clothes back down, and you head back to the T-junction where you discovered the unfortunate pilgrim. You can see that the passageway splits off into a T-junction in front of you. One goes back west the way you've came, one goes north, one goes south. You can see to the south is what looks to be the remnants of a wooden door, likewise to the north. However, these wooden doors are crumbling to pieces. They're in a very bad state of disrepair.
Okay, so I will head north and see what I can find at the door.
Okay, no problems at all. So you head north, and like I say, the door's sort of hanging off its hinges. There's huge holes in it. It's obviously decayed quite drastically over time. As you peer through, you can see what appears to be a globe of soft golden light that seems to be just sort of like fixed near the ceiling, sort of floating in the air. The sort of northern door has what looks to have once been like a wreath of flowers around it, but they're long since dead and desiccated. There's a couple of what look to be the remnants of a couple of vases full on the floor that are smashed. There's various strips of like braided cloth, but it's faded, rotted and worn away by age. Above the door to the north is what appears to be a wooden plank which has quite a faded but still just about legible script written on it, and it says St. Clewd, who stood alone against the black unicorn. May he continue his heroic deeds in the next life.
Which language is this in?
It appears to be it's in common, but it's like an archaic sort of form.
Yeah, old-timey.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But it's still readable to you guys.
And lo, then he did struggle.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, you're getting the idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just checking if it's in Church Latin, because I can't read that. But
no, it appears to be in sort of common, but like I say, it's of an archaic cast.
So, and the golden light is behind the northern door, is it? Okay. So I will try and push the northern door open.
Yep, as you push it, it literally comes off its hinge and sort of falls to the ground with a bit of a dull thump as it lands on the vegetation that's growing down here. Like I say, there's mushrooms, there's vines, etc. And as you sort of look into the chamber beyond, it's about 15 foot by 15 foot, a small square chamber. You can see sort of up ahead is another one of these sort of like shimmering fields, but the colour tint appears to be more pronounced, as though it's got sort of darker.
Okay. And is the golden light above that?
Yeah, it's like floating in midair in the chamber.
Okay.
It's as though someone had like suspended a lantern sort of floating in the centre of this chamber, and it casts this gentle glowing light over the whole chamber.
Okay. And so the room is 15 by 15, is it?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, and the darker magenta is in the middle of the room, or it's...
Yeah, it's in the centre of the room, sort of up near where the ceiling is.
Okay. And is there anything else in the room apart from this second field?
Not that you can see at the moment, but like I say, most of the stuff in here, rather like the previous chamber, is overgrown with vines and moss. So you can see like various lumps and bumps in the moss, which might be something, it might be nothing, you're not sure.
Yeah, okay. And there's no other doors or exits out of the room?
There appears to be in the opposite wall another one of these wooden doors. Although this one appears to have like weathered the passage of time a lot better.
And is it possible to get to that door without stepping through this haze, the second haze? No, okay. So I will then head south and try and look through the southern door.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. You head south, and as you look through this door, again, because there's huge holes in it, you look in, you can see a small chamber. It's about 15 foot by 10. It looks to have maybe once been like perhaps a small private prayer room, or maybe a storage room, you're not sure. However, lying on the floor of this chamber, you can see what appears to be a long dead humanoid figure, a skeleton. There's scraps of long decayed brown hessian hanging around the bones, perhaps some sort of garment. It looks as though, from what you can see, this person was in the process of sort of like drawing or inscribing something on the floor.
Okay.
Well, so, this looks interesting.
So I will push the door open and enter the room.
Okay, you push the door open and sort of head into the room, and as you do so, a gauzy, transparent figure of a monk wearing robes like materializes just in front of you. It doesn't react to you or seem to be aware of you, but as you watch this transparent spectral monk, sort of looking behind it as though panicking, runs into the room, sort of glancing around continuously, sort of occasionally sort of holding its hand up, runs into the room, pulls out what appears to be a stick of chalk, runs over to the floor and starts sort of inscribing something on the floor, then looks up in the direction where you are with a look of absolute fear and panic on his face, absolute horror, and it's just like, no, 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 no! And then as he screams, his form fades away, but the scream lingers for just a few moments. This as he fades away.
Okay. And is there anything written on the floor now, or did we have any way of understanding what he was writing as the figure was doing this?
Okay. You saw what he was writing. It was in chalk, so it's not there anymore. But you saw sort of like the spectral version, like this reenactment of what he was writing. You're not entirely sure, but it looked to you as though he was writing some sort of prayer or ward on the floor, as though he was. You've seen such wards written before, where the church is trying to like confine some evil. It's effectively like part of an exorcism style ritual, where wards will be put around the person or place that's possessed in order to prevent the evil from escaping beyond it, whilst the exorcist does their thing.
Okay.
Sort of prison shackle thing.
Exactly, yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So is there anything else in the room?
You move in and you start looking around. You eventually find what appears to be, I think, roll me d12.
5.
You find sort of like scattered around what appear to be 5 sort of tarnished golden coins. One thing that, as you sort of like, you spot these and they're sort of lying around the body, which is partly covered in moss. As you're sort of like leaning over and like looking at them, you notice that the skeleton appears to have like a number of like odd deformities to it, like strange growths on the actual bone, and several like the arms like twisted around impossibly, as though the skeleton had been warped somehow.
Okay. And with my medicine experience, would I understand whether that happened before he died or afterwards?
Well, assuming that this skeleton is the remains of the spectral monk that you've just seen, he obviously didn't have those deformities when he came in here, because he was like walking normally, whereas you can see like one of the legs is like sort of he's got like quite a pronounced like club foot, the skeleton, and you're like, well, if he had that, he wouldn't have been like running in and sort of like doing all of this.
Okay. Is there any other exits from the room, or is it just
the one that you've come in by?
Okay. So there's something pretty evil down here. Okay, so I guess there's nothing for it, Jackdaw, but to chance the second haze.
Is there... I don't know how that works, but... Do you know if it's like a deceased person doing this, or...
The only thing I have sensed so far is that it's not natural.
As you're discussing this, there is suddenly this loud... and the moss just near where you're standing, Friar Dunston, erupts upwards, and a large, sort of 7 foot tall figure unfolds out of it. And to describe it, it's a horrendous thing. It looks as though someone's like mashed like half a dozen skeletons together. You can see distinctly like 5 different skulls. It's as though a madman had taken the parts of 7 skeletons and fixed them all together in a rough approximation of a human body. These skulls are chattering constantly. You can see numerous arms stuck on at random on this body, and it lunges forward towards you, sort of like gnashing its bony teeth and flailing with its arms. But perhaps warned by some foresight of Gale, you're able to like duck back into the doorway, and it just sort of flails at you with its arms.
Okay.
Roll that classic D10 initiative, guys.
dodge. That's not good.
Ah.
Okay, so...
Oh, John, just for future reference, can we also roll D20 for D30? Sorry, for initiative.
Yeah, if you want to.
Yeah, because that might be really useful sometimes.
Yeah, but basically, you can use your 1d30 roll for like the house roll for anything that's not going to permanently be on your character sheet.
Yeah.
So like, you couldn't roll it for like, I'm gaining hit points for a level, I'll use my d30. But initiative, attacks, damage, whatever.
Cool. Yeah, I'll keep that in mind because it might be useful to go first.
Okay, let me roll a d10 for this creature. Okay, so 3. Okay, so Jackdaw, with your honed reflex, obviously you're always on the lookout for trouble. As this thing bursts out and it tries to grab hold of the friar with its bony, mismatched limbs, but the friar ducks back into the doorway. You get the first chance to react. What are you doing?
So, how wide is the doorway?
It's quite a wide doorway because it's like obviously one of these sort of underground crypts. You could probably get like 2 people side by side in the doorway.
Yeah. So, how's the friar looking? Because you obviously by reflex you jumped away from the thing. How's the friar looking as far as like are we going to throw down or are we going to try and make it out?
The friar is looking like he wants to throw down.
Okay, so throw down it is. So out comes the axe. No, sorry, because I would have been on the more like cautionary setup here. So out comes the club instead.
I love the fact that your version of caution is like, I'm not going to use the axe. I'm going for the big club.
Yeah, yeah.
It's caution time.
Yeah, caution time. Bonk, bonk. Yeah. So out comes the truncheon of not hitting anything, and my shield, and I'm gonna because it's reaching with the. I suppose the arm as well is gonna be like arms instead of one arm, so I'm gonna try and bash it. Let's see how this goes. So I think.
Okay, it has an AC of 13.
Okay. Here we go, and it's a 19.
Okay, you have hit. Roll your damage.
Come on, buddy. 3.
Okay, that's absolutely grand. So you strike this creature, and as you strike it, like a number of bits of, as though it's like shoddily put together, like bits of bone fragments and bits of long-dried sinew just like cascade off as though it's falling apart even as it's moving. But the skulls continue to gnash their teeth and like look around as they're like dotted all over the body. It doesn't really seem to have any sort of sense of pain. Okay, Friar. So Jackdaw's waded in. He's giving it a cautious clubbing and like some bits of it like
because it's shedding bone.
Indeed, and as it's moving and as you're fighting it, like this sort of like bone dust is like rising in the rooms as it's moving, and as you're like.
Okay. A quick question around spiritual weapon.
Yep.
If I cast, so I guess I have 2 questions, right? So if I cast that this round, does it attack this round?
Yep.
And then the second question is when it attacks in the next round, can I also do an attack, or do I give up my go to maintain the concentration?
No, I believe you can also do an attack.
Okay. So then I would like to cast spiritual weapon.
Okay. And what form does your spiritual weapon take when it appears?
This is going to surprise you, John, but it takes the form of the Sword of Gale.
Okay, no problem. So you've got the actual Sword of Gale, and you're like manifesting like another Sword of Gale. Is that correct?
Yes. So I'm kind of dual wielding the Sword of Gale.
Yeah. So as the friar runs and he's like chanting under his breath, he draws out the Sword of Gale, and as he's chanting, like a second like twin blade sort of appears, floating in the air, sort of like held by an unseen hand.
Okay, so that is a miss, unfortunately.
Do you get to roll separately for your spiritual weapon?
That was my spiritual weapon.
All right, okay. So do you want to do your own attack?
Okay. Oh, that's even worse.
Okay. So what I'm going to say with that, because you're going to 1, is as you're standing there watching, the creature, it reaches up and it grabs hold of like one of its many skulls with one of its bony arms and like just literally like wrenches the skull off its body, and then it hurls the skull towards you guys, and as it does, this sort of like smoke starts billowing out of the skull and trailing behind it as it arcs through the air towards you. So I'm going to do it as an attack on you as a consequence of you getting
Yeah,
1.
that's perfect.
Let's see what we get.
Yes. 5.
Okay, so the skull hits the door frame above where you guys are standing, and as it does, there's like a as this almost like a tiny explosion as this skull bursts apart. Fragments of dust and little bits of stone chippings fall down on you guys, but the door holds. But
Okay.
dust like cascades down on you as this thing's like moving forward in like a jerk, almost like a marionette with its strings tangled up as it sort of moves forward towards you.
Okay.
Okay, so Jackdaw.
It's clobbering time. So, after like ducking under my shield with the skull fragmenting, I'll get in another bunch of strikes with the club. Hopefully, come on, man. Yeah.
Ooh, nice.
Excellent. Roll your damage.
John, I'm gonna roll the 1d30.
Okay. now remember, if you get like a 1 on this, it's like a box.
Yeah, it's gonna be bad.
But
Bad
go
times.
for it. Roll that d30.
Bad times. Come on, roll 20. Oh, there.
Okay, so describe how with like a mighty heroic blow, you basically take this thing down in like a 1. So describe how that goes down. I'm gonna turn. Since you got a 30, I'm turning the narration over to you. Describe what happened.
I guess I because the skull was coming in. I was like, oh shit, because it was blatantly some kind of magic stuff because it belonged to smoke and everything. So I guess I duck and then I do the sort of like baseball slide forward and like come up behind it, and I suppose I I just rear back and just the sort of like incoherent war cry of just noise, and I hit it in the spine, and I think it hits it right on the spine of all the spines, and it's just sort of like like it folds forwards.
Yeah, and as it folds forward, it's as though whatever sort of foul energies were binding this mishmash of bones and sinew together crumbles underneath your onslaught, and as it's sort of leaning forward, like bits of it are just sort of cascading off until it falls to the ground in a shower of bones. You can see there must be at least the remnants of half a dozen or so people that used to construct this thing. You stand there for a few moments, but it remains still. It doesn't make any further attack.
I still like I'm even though I've waited for a bit, but I'm still waiting. It's like, Friar, any ideas on what to do next? And I'm just waiting for one of the bones to start twitching, and I'll play whack-a-mole with it.
Okay, the bones don't start twitching. However, 2 more spectral monks manifest. One appears to be the same monk from earlier, although he looks in much less distress this time, whereas the other is an older man wearing much grander robes, and he's carrying like a large leather-bound tome under his arm. But there are also hazy and transparent apparitions. As they walk in, the younger one says, "Are you really sure that this is wise, Abbot Lummingwell? I'm really not sure about this." He's like, "Yes, of course, my boy. It's fine. I've studied the tomes. You've seen the sacred shrine of St. Clewd the way I have. You've seen the resting place of our honoured patron." And he holds up this book and he like taps it, and you hear this like hollow like that echoes strangely from this spectre, and he says, "I've studied this ancient text. This holds. Imagine it. We may hear the very wisdom of St. Clewd himself. Imagine all the things he can tell us. Or one who is believed to have studied the presence of Gale himself. Just imagine what we could learn. We could restore the Abbey to its former glory." The young monk still looks a little bit uncertain. He says, "Well, I know you're very learned in this sort of thing, Abbot, but to use such a text, I'm not sure that our patron would have approved of such a thing." Well, it's not your decision to make, brother. I'm the abbot of this monastery, and it's my decision. At which point the young monk nods. They walk further into the room. You see him put the book down, which hovers in the air. Perhaps there was once a table there that you can't see. The book hovers there for a few moments, then they all start slowly fading away. And as they fade away, the last thing you hear is Abbot Lummingwill's voice saying, "We'll conduct the ceremony this evening. Tell the brothers to make ready." And then they fade away.
Okay.
Fine then. So, Friar, do you think there's a stack of perhaps non-orthodox material to be found here?
It would certainly seem that way. It seems like these fools tried to resurrect the dead St. Clewd, and probably have raised the black unicorn in his place.
I have to say, I don't much fancy the idea of being down here and suddenly being surrounded by whatever this is, and I'll motion towards the scattered bones. Be really hard to get out if such a thing were to spring up behind us.
Yes. Perhaps we should move the moss as we go and make sure that we don't pass over any such hidden creatures.
Perhaps if we had a sort of long wooden pole, perhaps, maybe around 10 of a man's foot long. We could use it to prod the moss in advance of our advance, so to speak.
Indeed. And is there a piece of timber about that long, John, that we can pick up?
Yeah, there's like bits of the rafters that have fallen down. It takes you a few minutes of sort of searching around, but yeah, you find a sort of roughly 10-foot long sort of bit of wood. It's not like a straight sort of pole, but it's like a shard of wood, but it'll suffice.
Okay, so I think
Beautiful,
we will.
the way that nature's symmetry makes these roughly the same length.
So I guess we'll head back to the northern room.
Okay, so you head back to the northern room with the plaque above the door, and just beyond the doorway you can see again another shimmering field where the magenta pigmentation gets a little more pronounced.
Okay. And how does the light of the floating torch interact with the magenta haze or the magenta field?
It doesn't appear to be directly interacting with it at all. It just appears to be like a globe of light.
Okay. And do we have to pass through the field to be able to like touch the light with the pole or anything like that, or is it?
You wouldn't have to enter the room just to like poke the edge of the pole in and be like. But obviously, if you wanted to actually go into the room, you would have to enter the field. But you could like suddenly push the pole in and keep yourselves out of it.
Okay, so that's what I'd like to do. I'd like to push the pole in and try and touch the golden globe and see what happens.
Okay, not a problem. You You reach in, being careful not to go through the field yourself. You tap the globe with the pole, and as you do, you feel like a very slight resistance, and the globe sort of moves as you like push it, but it remains sort of hovering at a height, but you can like move it about with the pole. The light sort of dims a little, like when you make contact with it and push it, but when you stop moving it, it resumes its full brightness.
Okay. And the field starts as soon as we step into the room.
Yeah, the field starts just beyond the doorway into the room.
Okay. So I will step into the room through the field and hope I don't regret it.
Okay, make me a Constitution roll.
Uh, 10.
Okay. Roll me a D1000.
Ooh, 17.
17. Okay, let's have a look.
That's low enough to be really, really bad or really, really good.
Okay, so as you sort of as you enter the field, you obviously turn around to like look back at Jackdaw to see if he's coming through, and as he does so, you notice that the friar appears to have like almost like a stain or like a mark down the left side of his face, rather like a sort of port wine stain, like birthmark, that is the same magenta colour as this field. Now, I'll leave the exact shape, etc., up to you, but it sort of covers a large part of the left-hand side of your face, although it doesn't appear to actually harm you, it just appears to be a cosmetic sort of thing.
Okay. Okay. What could possibly go wrong? So, the first thing I want to do is I want to touch all the moss in the room and make sure that there's no more hidden skeleton-type construct jokes.
Okay, you start poking around in the moss. You don't find any more sort of undead abominations or anything like that. However, as you're poking around, you do find a number of bones amidst the moss, as though like some people have died in here. Again, they all show sort of bizarre aberrations of the bones, as though they've been twisted or sort of mutated in some way. But they're quite, you sort of poke them with the stick, but they're obviously dead. They're not undead. You can again see scraps of sort of Hessian fabric on them.
Okay. Okay, and is there anything else in the room apart from the globe and the door in the north wall?
Okay, make me a wisdom roll.
Wisdom.
So don't forget you still have your D30.
So that's 17.
Yep, boy.
Okay, as you're looking around, you find a more complete skeleton wearing again the remnants of monks' robes, and you see that the skeleton under its arm has what appears to be a slightly decayed but large leather tome, like tucked under one arm, as though it was trying to like hold it close to itself when the person died.
Okay. Does this leather tome look like the leather tome we've seen in the vision?
It looks very similar, although this is a sort of time decayed and sort of aged version.
Okay. So I would like to pick up the tome and see what it's called.
Okay, you pick it up and it doesn't appear to have any sort of title written on the front of it. It's got like a leather binding on it. However, it appears to have what looks to be like an eye set in the centre of it with like a closed eyelid on it. That appears to be part of the sort of leather that's been wrapped around this tome.
Okay, so I would like to put that in my backpack to examine later.
Absolutely fine. You have an occult tome with an eye on it.
That's probably no problem. I think it's going to be okay.
So okay. Whilst the friar's doing all this, what's Jackdaw up to?
I think I'm testing my tentacle tails.
Okay, so you spend a while like sort of trying to.
Yeah,
And
I'm just
after
like reaching back, touching them.
yeah, and after a while you realise that like if you think about it, and it takes a while getting used to, but you can actually like move these tentacles. The nearest I can describe it, it's almost as though you've got like an extra sort of like long fingered hand, like in the small of your back. Now they don't feel very strong, but like after a bit of sort of testing, they're quite sort of dexterous, and you can sort of like move them with dealer proficiency, like I said, almost like an extra hand so in the small of your back.
So I'm gonna try and take one of my, because I don't have like daggers per se, because all of mine are knives, so they're not the sort of like military stabby. They're more with the cutlery, like I've been talking about. So I'll take one of my steak knives and I'll try and hold it.
Okay, you pass it back, and you, after a couple of attempts, you do manage to sort of like wrap the tentacles around it and hold it. Now, it doesn't feel like the grip's as strong as if you were holding it in your hand.
Yeah.
But you are holding
because no
it.
bones, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Well.
But you have managed to like hold on to it, and you can sort of you can feel the sensation as though it was like an extra hand and you were gripping it.
I'm just like standing there, and behind me, the tentacles are kind of flipping the knife back and forth, trying to see like how much can I stretch the agility before I drop it, and then when I do, I'll pick it up and go like, huh.
Yeah, like basic sort of like moving it about and stuff's fine. You're not going to be like spinning it around the tentacles.
Yeah.
But like basic sort of taking hold of and like moving around. That after a couple of minutes, you're like, yeah, that's not too much of a problem.
So, Friar, how do we proceed?
Let's have a look at the next door and see what we can see beyond it. And I will walk up and see if I can look through the next door in the north.
Okay, can you please roll me a d6 for her?
5.
Okay, as you start stepping towards the door, there's suddenly you feel a displacement as like a gust of wind had sort of hit you and like knocked you back, slightly like a strong gust of wind. To your viewpoint, Jackdaw, Fry Dunston steps forward and he just like fades away and disappears.
We've sort of seen this sort of thing before, so I get the club out and I charge after him.
Okay, not a problem. Roll me a d6.
That's a 5.
Okay, you charge forward and you likewise disappear. Now, what happens is, as you both run forward, suddenly the decay and the years that have affected this place seem to roll backwards in sort of, as though you're watching like a time reversed, like quick looped video. You see the tendrils of vines retreating backwards, the mould disappearing, the drapes sort of jumping up onto the walls and restoring themselves to their former glory. And as you watch, you see what appear to be, first of all, they look like distortions in the air, then slowly they resolve into the figure of monks, looking not like apparitions, but like solid people wearing their robes. They're just walking around, like talking to each other. You can see them. There appears to be a lot of hushed conversation going on. They don't appear to have spotted you. But this room now appears to be a shrine with nice coloured drapes hanging down. There's benches and tables. There's a few monks sat down writing parchments with quills. There seems to be like a bit of an excited sort of hubbub going on. Like the monks are talking to each other. There must be... Let's roll to see how many monks there are in here. There are 12 monks in here, so it's quite a packed chamber. Indeed, it seems like these sort of 12 monks are sort of like gathering together. But like I say, they don't appear to have spotted you guys yet. You're stood at the doorway and you're looking into the room where this strong pink field was before, but you can't see any field now. It's as though you've somehow stepped back into the past of this place and you're seeing it as it was.
So I would like to step up to the monk beside the nearest monk to me and just say, "What's going on, brother?"
You step up to me. He looks round at you and he says, "Oh, brother, you've." Obviously, he looks at your robes and he's like, "You must be another monk." He says, brother, you've not heard that. The abbot believes it's possible for us to communicate with St. Clewd himself at the great shrine," and he gestures at the doorway in the far wall. He says, he's gathering us all together. Just think of it, if after all these hundreds of years we can hear the actual voice of St. Clewd, one who has stood in the presence of the Golden Angel himself.
Yes. Okay. And he indicated the door just ahead of us in the north wall. So yeah, I will kind of push my way through the monks a bit and kind of open that door and step through it.
Okay, you open that door and it leads into a small chamber beyond, again, sort of 10 by 15 sort of lengthways. You can see at the far end of this chamber is what appears to be a large sort of twisted tree growing up out of the ground, and then as though it's sort of melded with the tree is a figure sort of with its hands raised to the sky and its mouth open, like frozen in place, and you recognise the figure of St. Clewd from the mosaics you saw earlier, but it's as though he's been sort of merged with this tree. You can also see what appear to be fragments of rock that are embedded in the tree, and they appear to be glowing softly with a magenta light.
Okay.
There's a monk sort of kneeling down, facing away from you towards the tree. He has a book, which looks like a newer version of the one that's in your backpack, spread out on the floor in front of him. You recognise the older monk from the spectral visitation you saw earlier, and he appears to be sort of kneeling forward, like looking at this book. Occasionally he looks up and he crosses himself, or he says like a prayer towards the tree, which for all intents and purposes seems to house the very body of St. Clewd himself.
Okay. So I will call out, "What are you doing, you fool?"
He looks over to you and he says, what do you mean, what am I doing? I'm preparing to commune with the... And then he stops and he says, "Wait a minute, who are you? I don't recognise you."
"I'm Friar Dunston."
Dunston?
I have been...
Dunston? The name doesn't ring a bell. What abbey do you hail from?
I hail from Bishopsgate, the Abbey of St. Gale in Bishopsgate.
He looks a little confused. Says, I'm not familiar with that abbey, but we do get travellers come through here to visit the Abbey of St. Clewd. But you've come at a most fortuitous time. We may soon be able to communicate with the great saint himself." And he gestures towards the tree with this figure sort of almost frozen and like petrified into this stony looking tree with these magenta rocks embedded in it.
I feel that you have been misled, and that what the outcome of what you are attempting will bode ill for all. As you know, St. Clewd was buried with the Black Unicorn.
He says, "What do you mean buried? We can see him there. He after all, is it not written in our holy text that he called for Gale himself to, with the last of his breath, he called for Gale to strike down the Black Unicorn, and Gale's anger descended from the heavens, destroying the foul beast, but preserving St. Clewd, so that one day when we needed him, he might rise again and lead us. And here he has lain all these years until I," and he sort of like taps this book, "have unlocked the secret to return him to this world."
And tell me, these stones, these magenta stones, have they always been that colour?
He says,
"What are they?"
He says, "Why, yes, this is Gale's anger and his righteous fury made manifest. For did not the great fiery stone descend from the sky, obliterating the fell beast that challenged St. Clewd? And from from the ashes rose this tree, cradling the body of St. Clewd and preserving him against the passage of years. And he crosses himself.
Okay. And does St. Clewd look like he could be humanoid or human, but kind of frozen?
He looks human, but like I say, it's like as though he's been like melded with the tree. But the tree looks as though it's petrified. So it looks as though it's made of stone, and he likewise has a similar sort of greyish tint. But he's still sort of like as though he's looking up and sort of like speaking to the heavens, one hand raised up towards the sky. Although the roof looks to be in a much better condition at the moment. But he's like emerging from the boughs of the tree.
So tell me about this book and where you found it.
He taps the book and he says, "Well, it took me years of research and dealing with some unsavoury people that I'd rather not discuss. But this book," and again he like taps it, "contains rituals and prayers necessary to contact those who dwell in the afterlife. But I, through my learning and with some great pains to myself, I believe I've discovered a way that we can communicate with St. Clewd, who is not dead but just sleeps until he hears our call and that our need is great, and he will return and bring his blessings to us."
And you believe that this book of evil that you acquired from people of ill repute is
he gives like
the
a
spells
scoffing,
necessary?
He gives like a scoffing sort of like, "Oh." And he's like, "The knowledge is not evil. It is the purpose to which men's hearts put it that is evil or good. How could something evil come from seeking to contact someone so blessed as St. Clewd? If one's motivations and one's desires are pure, then how can the outcome be any different? Surely Gale would not allow it to be so."
But Gale is not the only god, and sometimes prayers in...
He's like, "Oh, blasphemy!"
Do you want me to? And I'll not at yonder tree man.
How many other monks are in the room, John?
In this room, none. They're all sort of gathering in the other chamber. It appears that they've left Abbot Lummingwill sort of on his own to like get ready for this ritual. Presumably he's going to call for them once he's ready. Okay.
So what I would like to do then is kind of step over and have a look at the book and see what sort of spells are in it.
Okay, you step over and have a look at it. The writing is in a strange sort of flowing script. What languages do you read?
Common, Latin and Arabic.
Okay, the languages there has some similarities to Arabic. However, some of it looks a bit familiar and you're like, you can't read it, but you're like, where have I seen that before? And then you recall where you've seen very similar writing before. It was on the scroll that you were given by the demonic lawyer in the Stygian library. The writing on that scroll, although again you couldn't read that, looked very similar to this, as though it came from the same alphabet.
Okay. So, Abbott, this is a book written by demons in a demonic language.
He looks a little bit unsure when you say that, and he's like, well, I wouldn't know anything about that. I can't claim to have ever encountered such a fell creature. Of course, I've dealt with evil spirits in my time, casting them out of people and such like, as is Gale's will. But
and how do you read such a book as a man of Gale?
Well, it wasn't easy. It's taken me many years, but I've managed to, by consulting with other texts, I've managed to decipher enough, I believe, to be able to communicate with the saint himself.
Okay. So I have. This is such a terrible thing to do, lying to priests, but I have seen a vision of the future, and that vision is predicated by you being unsuccessful here and a great evil being released. So I'm afraid that I cannot allow you to attempt this ritual with this book, which has clearly been put here to lead you astray and release great evil onto the world.
He seems to be listening to what you're saying and he's sort of nodding along. However, when you get to the bit when you say, I can't allow you to, he sort of like draws himself up to his like full height. He's got a bit of a paunch, he's like middle-aged, but he draws himself up to his full height and he's like, you cannot allow me? Who are you, sir, to walk into the grounds of the Abbey where I am the abbot and start giving out your orders? I am the abbot of the Abbey of St. Clewd.
And
I will have no...
the Sword of Gale. I am the wielder of the Sword of Gale.
I say. From behind.
He looks so sceptical and raises an eyebrow.
And then I'll pull out the sword and show him.
Okay, you go to pull out the sword and you realise it's not there.
Aha. That is unfortunate.
He says, ha! As I thought, a likely story, Sword of Gale indeed.
Are my eyes still golden by any chance? No? No. Is he holding the book or is the book on the floor?
The book's on the floor in front of him. He was like kneeling down in front of it and now he's stood up to face you guys. But the book is still on the floor open. You can see there's like a leather sort of like bookmark in it.
Okay. So he's outraged. Okay, so I will kind of step into him. You know, not like super aggressively, but kind of go kind of face to face with him, and then make a kind of behind me gesture to Jackdaw in the general direction of the book.
Okay. Well, I think the friar wants me to get at the book, so
okay.
I will make my best effort to sneak it away. While I presume he's gonna help me.
Okay, well the abbot is distracted, so
yeah,
it will allow you to roll. So make a dex roll. Obviously, it is a stealthy assassin-y thing. So
yeah, let's see. 18.
Okay, so while the abbot's distracted and he's getting into his whole like, oh, you to come into this abbey and give me orders, I am the abbot. You like slide along the wall sort of, in the dark overhang and the shadows, and you're about 5 foot away from the book. Like you could almost just reach out and grab it. He doesn't appear to have spotted you.
You're muted.
Ah, curses. Yeah, I will snatch the book.
Okay, you jump forward, grab the book, and as you do, there is a flash, and you both find yourself stood back in the corridor, sort of facing the room in present day. You can see the shimmering dark magenta field in front of you, and the room reduced to its pitiful, degraded state.
The sword. Do you have the sword?
I'll just check and see if I have the sword.
You look down, you now have the sword, yeah.
Okay.
Good. I'll hold up the book, presuming it's still there.
You go like that, and there's no book there.
Yeah. So I was like, I have the book. I had the book.
Okay. So let us go on and see what's left of the St. Clewd and this twisted tree. And I'll step up to the next door.
Yeah, as we talk about the twisted tree, I will put away the cudgel. Out comes the axe.
Okay, you step forward, and again there's another displacement as though air has hit the two of you. And now you find yourself stood in, you think it's the same area, but there is no abbey. You're just stood in like a forest clearing.
This is getting stranger and stranger, Jackdaw.
As you look up ahead of you, you can hear the sound of weapons clashing, and you can see the figure of St. Clewd holding a sword, and facing him is what appears to be this large, black stallion with a mane of fire and demonic red eyes. You can see St. Clewd has numerous wounds. Blood is staining his vestments, and as you watch, this creature lashes out with a flaming hoof, strikes him in the side of his temple, and he falls down to the ground, sort of trying to hold his sword up to defend himself. You see him reach up towards the sky, and he's like, and everything seems to fall quiet for a few moments, the din of the battle dying away, and you hear a very soft voice. He says, "Gale, I ask not for myself, for my fate is in your hands, but do not allow the people of this land to suffer because I have failed. I ask that if it is my fate to pass into your golden realm after this life is done, that you send this creature along after me, so that other people not suffer due to my failure." And as you sort of follow it with your eyes, you follow his hand, you can see what appears to be a glowing spot in the sky that appears to be getting larger, and after a few moments you can hear like this, and as you watch, you see what appears to be like a fireball approaching from the sky, a flaming sphere of glowing rock that appears to be heading directly towards where St. Clewd is lying on the ground, and this creature sort of reared up over him, getting ready to finish him off.
Okay. Does it look anything like the globe of light that was left in the previous room?
It doesn't, however, as it's getting nearer, you can see that the fire emanating from this meteorite, for all intents and purposes, has magenta sort of tongues of flame around the edge of it.
Okay.
The rock strikes the scene in front of you. There is a blinding magenta flash, and again you find yourself back in the chamber you were previously stood in, facing the door.
Okay. Just a quick question. When we went back in time and we seen the monks,
Yep.
did we see this floating glowing torch?
No.
No. Okay. Okay. So, thinking that tree is a charm, I will attempt the final door once more.
Okay, you open the door into this shrine chamber, and you see the tree with St. Clewd in it, as previously described. Although, as you look at the tree now, it doesn't appear to be petrified, and you see that the limbs and the branches of the trees are sort of moving, rather similar to like the tentacles on Jackdaw's back. They're moving and twitching and sort of roiling and lashing out. You can see the figure of St. Clewd is still sort of melded with the middle of it.
Okay. And is there anything else in the room apart from this tree and St. Clewd?
You can see what appears to be a skeleton lying on the floor, sort of facing this tree. It's blackened as though it had been exposed to extreme heat.
Okay. So I'll approach and have a look at the skeleton and see is it humanoid or...
Again, it appears human, but as you're moving towards it, you see that again the pigmentation in the air seems to be getting darker as you get nearer to this.
Okay.
This body, so there's like another field shimmering just in front of the body. It appears as though this pigmentation is emanating from this tree, and the nearer you get to it, the more condensed and more obvious and more sort of saturated this pigment's getting.
Okay. And I still get the same sense of unease and queasiness.
Yeah, the nearer you're getting to this tree, the worse it's getting.
Okay. Okay, so I will step through again and
make your concentration
check.
Yep.
16.
You are grand.
Okay.
You step through, you have this brief queasy feeling for a moment, but it passes. And you're now sort of stood next to the body, and as I say, it looks as though someone was facing this tree and then they sort of got thrown backwards, but all the bones are like blackened and charred as though they've been exposed to like tremendous heat and they've almost been carbonized.
Okay. And the abbot didn't have any sort of kind of a metal sigil or anything that would have indicated that this was he.
He did have a metal cross around his neck, and as you look in the bones, you can indeed see resting in the rib cages the charred, partially melted remnants of the cross.
Okay. Okay. Well, I did tell him not to do it. Okay, so then say Clewd is kind of stone-like. You know, his skin looks like stone, does it, or does it look like
it does,
skin? Yeah. Okay. And the tree is moving. Is it moving in like an aggressive way, or is it kind of waving?
It's just sort of undulating and moving. It doesn't appear to be like actively, sort of like aggressively moving towards you.
Okay. And the magenta stones, are they still there, or are they gone, or?
They are there, but they're glowing much brighter than when you previously saw them in the past.
Okay. Okay. And then when I was looking at the scene in the forest, would I have gotten the sense that this thing, the magenta thing, was actually from Gale, or is my sense that actually that wasn't really a miracle, it was more of a...
You certainly didn't feel any sort of like glowing sense of warmth and religious awe when it came down, no.
Okay. Okay.
And indeed, looking at the sort of expression on the face of Gale as he's melded, sorry, not Gale, as St. Clewd as he's melded with the tree, he certainly doesn't look like he's in any sense of like beatific peace.
Okay. So I will approach St. Clewd and try and kind of rub my hand down his face and see A, what it feels like, and B, what the reaction is.
Okay, you sort of run your hand outside his face, and it does feel slightly warm, although it has the sort of grey tinge of stone. It has the warmth of flesh.
Okay.
As you run your hand down the side of his face. For a few moments, the eyelids flicker, and then the eyes open, and they look at you. The mouth moves and opens and shuts slightly, as though trying to say something, but no words come out.
Okay. Okay. And has the tree reacted in any way?
The tree's still sort of undulating, and the tendril-like branches are moving around, but it's not active aggressively towards you.
Okay. So the first thing I would like to do is take a vial of holy water and kind of call on Gale to bless it again, specially, and then try and use it to wash the face of St. Clewd and see if it has any positive impact on him.
Okay, you sort of rub this holy water, and there's a slight sort of hissing noise as you rub this holy water down the face of St. Clewd, and for a few moments his skin appears to take on the colour and the texture of flesh. His mouth opens, and in a whispered voice he says, "Beware of the falling star."
Okay. Okay. So can I then try and put some of the holy water on one of the magenta stones that are kind of buried in the tree and see what happens?
You put the holy water, you dribble it on stone. Again, there's like a hissing and sort of mist rises off it. There's a loud, sort of high-pitched shriek emanates from the tree, like the sound of someone screaming crossed with splintered wood, and the whole central trunk of the tree seems to move as though it's trying to like heave itself out of the ground.
Okay.
As it makes this like noise.
And did St. Clewd, or what's left of him, feel or seem distressed at that?
In fact, you actually notice like a slight smile comes onto his face, and he closes his eyes.
Okay. So I guess I will pull out a second bottle and kind of drench all of the magenta stones.
Okay. as you do, there is another scream, and this time this strange tree-like growth actually heaves itself out of the ground. You can see where there should be roots on your normal tree. The actual trunk of the tree ends in two large hooved feet as it sort of pulls itself out of the ground as a loud as it sets these hooves down.
Okay. And is St. Clewd still melded to it?
As it moves, the body of St. Clewd drops free from the tree, and as it does so, it's as though time has caught up with the body. It rapidly decays before your eyes in a few seconds, being reduced to little more than a skeleton, which topples to the floor.
Okay.
The tree takes a thunderous step forward towards you with one of its hooved feet.
At which point I would like to hit it with my Sword of Gale.
Okay, go for it. It has AC 17.
Ooh, that is a miss.
Okay, you swing your sword at it, but don't. You actually hit it, but it doesn't really appear to cause any damage. You maybe do a few shallow cuts, and you see this like magenta liquid, like sap, dribbling out of it. Jackdaw, what about you?
So, yeah, I've been sitting back to let the friar do his thing. If I followed him in, do I need to roll for anything? As far as the so what am I rolling?
Constitution.
Constitution is gonna be shit, but 4. It's a 1. It's a 1.
Okay, it's a 1.
It's actually -1. Nega Constitution.
Okay, can you roll me a D300?
Uh, 150.
150.
I'm a middle of the road kind of assassin.
Okay, so I'm just gonna have to look this up. Give me a second.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's always good when it sends you to a different part of the book.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. So, as you do this and you step in, one of the tendril-like branches of this tree lashes out in your direction, obviously planning to impact with you, Jackdaw. And as you do, you sort of throw your hands up as this huge tree branch goes up. From where you're standing, Friar, Jackdaw appears to shimmer slightly, and the branch passes through him.
Okay.
Okay, so I presumably, because I put my hands up and I close my eyes like, oh shit, going to get wrecked.
Yeah.
But nothing happens, and then there's
No, you open your eyes and you look around and you can actually see this branch that was literally no way it could miss you is actually behind you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I guess it's like, well, can't think about that now, so out with the axe and going to go help the friar. Okay, presumably, that's presuming that I'm tangible enough to handle my.
Well, make the roll and we'll find out. AC 17.
Yeah, I guess. So 20, and that's a kind of shit roll, but 6 damage.
Okay, you concentrate and you hack down with your axe at this tree and you shear off a portion of the bark. Again, this sort of magenta sap flows freely from the wound, and the thing lets out another splintered wooden scream. At this point, can everyone roll initiative, please?
Ah, 2.
That's an 8 for Friar Dunston. Okay, so it's the NPC going first. So I'll just roll to see which of you it's going to strike. So 1 to 3, Dunston. 4 to 6, Jackdaw. Okay, so it's Fry Dunston that it's striking.
Ooh, 5.
Okay, it lashes out at you with one of these large tentacle-like branches, and you throw yourself flat onto the floor, Fry Dunston, as this branch sort of passes through where you were standing and actually punches into the stone wall behind you, sending showers of stone and dust up into the air.
Okay. Looks like that was a good one to miss.
Indeed. How do you respond?
Violently with my Sword of Gale.
Go for it.
Righteously.
Oh, you're kidding me. That's another one.
I'm sorry, I gave you my bad luck.
Okay, you lash out with your Sword of Gale, but obviously you're trying to rise up from where you're throwing yourself on the ground and you're not able to strike it. One of these huge hooved feet sort of flicks out in your direction and just catches you a glancing blow, causing you 2 hit points of damage, sort of throwing you into the wall. You're lucky you were wearing your armour because that took most of the blow.
Okay.
Okay,
Jackdaw, this thing's just punted the friar across the room with one of its hoof feet.
Well, presuming it can fit inside the very limited space of a round, I'm going to yell like, "Friar, do we flee?"
Yeah, obviously talking's a free action, so
Yeah.
No, let us fight this thing to the death.
Yeah. So I will redouble my efforts to cut it down with my axe.
go for it. AC 17.
With my hawks. Let's see. Yeah, 17 is going to be a tough sell for a second swing, but here we go. Yeah, it's a 7.
Okay, so you do actually hit it with your axe, but this tough, like bark-like exterior turns aside your blow. Okay, so to the NPC, so I'll roll 2 attacks again. Okay, it's going for Jackdaw this time.
Shit. Shit. Oof. I have...
You've got 14, with its modifier it hits.
Oh, shit, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I... without my shield, I have 13, but yeah.
Okay, so let me just check its damage. Okay.
This is going to be ugly. It might be checkout time for me. Oh.
Okay. Again, you throw yourself back against the flat against the wall as one of these tendril-like branches lashes out. Just the tip of it catches you across the side of your face, scoring a shallow cut, causing you 2 hit points of damage.
Mm-hmm.
Fry Dunston, you're back on your feet, Sword of Gale in hand. What do you do?
Here we go, Sword of Gale, let's do this.
Come on, man.
Oh,
No, it's another 1!
Oh,
Gale, why have you forsaken us?
Indeed. So as you're sort of swinging it effectively at this thing, its tendrils, instead of like attacking you, they actually burst upwards, and it pretty much grabs hold of the ceiling above where it is, and that wrenches what remains of the ceiling down, exposing the Abbey and the sky beyond. So showers of dirt and stone and wood rain down around you. I'm going to ask, can each of you roll me a d4 to see if you take any damage from the... We'll see how much damage you take from the falling debris.
oh, there's another one.
Okay, so Jackdaw, you take 2 hit points of damage. Dunston, you take 1. There's like bits of stone and wood that are like dropping around you, like sharpened shards of rock. You can now see through this large hole that this creature has created in the roof. The sky beyond it, where obviously the roof of the Abbey is long gone.
Okay.
I
Jackdaw.
I think because I threw myself down after the thing whipped me in the face with a branch, and then there was the falling ceiling bit, so I crawled away even further. And I think now, with the collapsed ceiling, so John, does it appear? Is there, because it's the ruins, right? On the top. So, is there a place where I could see a place to throw my grappling hook?
Yeah.
From here.
Yeah, you could easily throw it sort of over the edge of this hole that it's torn in the ceiling.
Yeah. So I do that. I take out my grappling hook, spin it, throw it out the hole.
That's fine. I'm not even going to ask you for a roll for that. There's plenty of places you can hook it on. You throw it up, give it an experimental tug, and you feel it catch on something outside the hole, and you're like,
yeah,
it seems secure.
So I do that, and because that's kind of like an action, right? So I do that, and then I back away so that the thing isn't like grabbing the rope immediately. So I back away with the rope, and I yell to the friar like, "Friar, I have a way out." And you can tell I'm kind of wobbly on my feet as I like pull my try to dodge the branches while holding the rope.
And indeed, as you're saying that, this creature again grasps hold of the edge of this hole it's torn in the ceiling with all of its tendrils and heaves itself up through the hole. You hear like a loud as it like pulls itself up into the ruins of the Abbey, leaving you guys sort of stood alone in this subterranean chamber with like bits of rock and dust falling down around you.
Okay.
What do you do, Dunston?
I will ask Jackdaw, is he badly hurt?
I as an answer, I sort of like spit some blood on the floor.
Okay. So then I will cast a spell on you.
Because I'm yours?
Yeah. Uh, 1d8. Okay, sorry. So I'm just...
That's fine. You call upon Gale to heal your friend.
Oh my god, this is ridiculous.
Gale isn't like there's
listening.
As you do this, it's strange as you sort of call on this, and you do feel like some healing energy flowing to Jackdaw, restoring him slightly. It feels strange here. You used to you call on Gale, and it's almost like you feel his presence. You get that warm sense that Gale is with you. But here it seems like he's far away, and it's like you're trying to reach to him across an impossibly wide distance, and you can still just sort of reach him, but it's just barely, and you just feel a few trickles of divine energy dribble into Jackdaw, sort of like curing a few of his like minor cuts and abrasions.
Okay. So then, if I can in this go, I'd like to climb up this rope after him and tell Jackdaw to stay out of its range and try and. I have 3 bottles of holy water that I'll give you as I go that you can potentially try and douse him with.
Yeah.
Okay, so Friar Dunston, you head up the rope on the grappling hook. You can see that this creature is now stood in the ruins of the Abbey. It lashes out with a few of its tendrils, sort of like collapsing a few of the bits of wall and knocking a few bits and pieces over. Most of its tendrils seem to be sort of like almost like they're like sensing the air as they're sort of like undulating.
So I'll call out, I'm not done with you yet, as I climb up.
Okay, not a problem. So you've seen, obviously, Friar Dunston has handed you this holy water, shinned up the rope, then from up there somewhere you hear his voice going, "I'm not done with you yet."
Yeah. I will make myself I will take myself up as well.
Yeah.
And I'll get the grappling hook. I'll leave it there just in case someone goes down. So I'll leave it there, and I have my bow. Yeah, I guess I'll I'll get my short bow out and knock an arrow, take a shot.
Go for it.
I think that should be it. Oh, 18.
You hit. Roll your damage.
Praise Gale. Praise Gale. 6 damage.
Nice.
Max damage.
Okay, your arrow hits and lodges into the main trunk of this strange tree-like beast, and you see a dribble of this magenta sap.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, so onto the creature itself. It's going to attack the Friar because he's the only one who's actually level with it at the moment. So, rather than lash out with its tendril, it's going to attempt to literally run over you with its hooven feet and trample you.
Oof.
So it has a +3 onto this. Okay, so it comes like charging towards you, like. However, it's quite slow, it's quite lumbering and ponderous. So as it charges towards you, you wait for the last minute, and then you just sort of like jump to one side, and it thunders past you, sort of crunching into the remnants of one of the stone walls and like collapsing it.
Okay. And while it's doing that, I like to swing my sword as it goes past.
Go for it.
That's another miss.
Okay, you swing your sword and you sever one of the smaller branches, but it doesn't really appear to cause it any great inconvenience. Jackdaw, you've hit it once with the bow, but now you can't see it because it's run away from the edge of the hole.
Yep. Yep. So. Yeah, I will. Well, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna try and get to a position where I could. Well, I guess I'll just try and continue with the bow. So up and if there's any kind of cover.
Yeah, there's loads of like bits of wall and debris and stuff. That's not.
Yeah, so I'll get behind some rocks and try another bow shot. From behind the rocks. Here goes.
Oh, nice.
Shit.
Roll that damage.
Oh well. it's still one.
Okay, you hit the creature with another arrow. This one doesn't stick in, it just like slices past it, and again you see a dribble of the sap. However, it's now aware of your presence and it thunders towards the like small bit of rock that you're hiding, and you hear this. You feel the ground shaking as it's like towards you, and it's going to try and trample you.
Mm-hmm. God damn it!
So +3. Okay, this might be quite nasty.
Yeah, this might be it. Yeah.
Okay, it hits you. It tramples you for 8 hit points of damage.
Yeah. That is me done.
Okay, so as this thing charges forwards, Dunston, you literally are you on like minus? What?
That takes me to -2 if we're counting minuses.
And what's your level?
5.
Then you're fine until you get to like -5. So
okay. Yeah.
But basically, you're not at death's door, but you're sort of like walking towards death's door,
yeah,
to deliver the milk.
Yeah, I'm moseying towards death's door.
So you see this thing like basically trample over Jackdaw and sort of run over where he is, and then slowly start wheeling around, and you can see Jackdaw sort of like lying there all like twisted and broken, with like blood just like spreading out in a pool below his body.
Okay. So can I get to him? Can I? He's close enough to me.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so So what I want to do is try and get to him and drag him out of the path of the creature, and then fairly quickly.
I'll say that like unless he gets some like healing but quick,
Yeah.
that's it. It's lights out for Jackdaw.
Yeah. So what I want to do then is move him out of the way into like some corner that makes it very difficult for him to be trampled.
Yep.
And then cast Cure Light Wounds on him again.
Go for it.
Hopefully a little bit more. Okay, 5.
Okay, now since you're below 0, that only restores you to 0. So you're still unconscious, Jackdaw, but you're no longer in immediate danger of dying. So you see all his sort of severe wounds, Friar, like heal up, but he's obviously still unconscious. He's covered in bruises and like little cuts and stuff like that. But you've hidden him behind one of these sort of like stone bits of the wall.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, the creature is going to try and lash out at you with one of its tendrils, Friar. Which it misses. As the tendril comes, you like duck behind the stone wall. It hits the stone wall that you and Jackdaw are behind, obliterating the stone wall, but it doesn't actually cause you any harm. But the cover is gone.
Okay.
There's just like a as it just like explodes this bit of stone wall.
Okay. Cool. So what I want to do then is I want to draw it away from Jackdaw.
Okay.
So I kind of want to slip around past it and attack it from behind, to kind of draw its attention away. And here we go. Oh, natural 20.
You certainly have its attention. Roll your damage.
So what I'm going to do is roll my 1d30 and hope for the best.
Nice, I love it. Just don't get a 1. 20.
20.
Yeah, that's it. That's the thing.
Okay.
Okay, so describe how you finish this creature off. With presumably the Sword of Gale.
Yes, absolutely. So I guess what I'm trying to do is kind of shear these magenta bricks off it, stones off it. So I just kind of cut it in such a way that it kind of cuts in and then up and then out, and then all of the kind of magenta type stones kind of fall out on the ground.
Yeah, you run past it, you slice it sort of in the central mass of this thing, stones dropping everywhere, and as you deliver this mighty slash, for a moment, like the trunk of it, like the centre mass of it is open to you, and inside you see not the sort of the barky interior you'd expect to see in a tree, but what almost looks like a large heart that's like and pulsing with this deep magenta light. For a moment it's exposed and it's open to you as you're sort of there with your sword like that. What do?
I stab it.
You plunge the Sword of Gale down into this heart. There is a spray of this magenta ichor that just like gushes over you and drenches you in it. The thing lets out a shriek, and then it's almost as though it sort of like deflates. It just begins like falling limply to the ground, sort of thrashing around a little bit, and then lies still, and it slowly starts to dissolve into this purple liquid that starts seeping away into the soil.
Okay. I hope that was the right thing to do.
You can see 4 of these large stones. The glow has subsided from them slightly. They still have this dull sort of magenta radiance, and they're just sort of like lying scattered around as they've fallen out of this thing.
Okay, so I would like to try and smash them with the Sword of Gale if I can.
Yep, you strike down with the Sword of Gale, and each time you plunge it into one of them, there's a brief flash of magenta light as the stone shatters. And as you as you do the first one and you look at the remnants of it, you see it almost looks like it's not so much a gemstone, but the remnants of it almost look like bits of twisted metal.
Okay.
And then you go on to the next ones and like. Is that what you want to do?
Yes, please.
Okay, you shatter the remnants of the rest of the stones. And after a while, the magenta glow that has been playing around this scene slowly begins to fade away to the normal darkness of a Dolmenwood night.
Okay.
And everything falls quiet except for the wind and the sound of a few stones still falling from the damaged structure of the Abbey.
Okay. So what I want to do then is make sure Jackdaw and Brother O'Gowan are both still alive and breathing.
Yeah.
And then I'm looking to kind of find somewhere relatively safe to leave them while they both recover.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
And once they're doing that, then I think I want to go back down through the grappling hook and make sure there's none of this magenta stuff left in the lower level of the Abbey.
Okay, you search around. It takes you like a good long while, but you don't find any signs of more of these stones.
Okay. Is there anything else of interest down there while I'm looking?
Nothing in particular. This place seems to have almost been like picked clean.
Okay.
Obviously, you know with your experience of healing that like Jackdaw's probably going to need at least a day's rest to sort of like get him back to that sweet 1 hit point.
Okay. So I think what we're really looking for then is trying to make enough of a shelter to keep the two patients kind of alive and warm, and then kind of settle in for the 24 hours it takes for Jackdaw to recover.
Okay, make me a wisdom roll.
Okay. 18 if it's cleric type stuff.
Okay, you search around and you manage to scrounge up enough material from the debris to make like a crude shelter. I mean, you know, sort of wilderness expert, but you've got like a few bits of timber and like prop them up to keep like the worst of the elements off, put like leaves on it and stuff like that, and you settle in. Is there anything? Obviously, presumably you're going to wait for like a day for Jackdaw to recover. Yeah. Is there anything you want to do during that day?
No, but I think if Brother O'Gowan is... So I'll ask Brother O'Gowan to keep an ear out while I get some rest. And if we can go 8 hours without any interruptions, I will reset my spells.
Okay, yeah. 8 hours passes without interruption. Obviously you get your rest and you do your prayers. Then you obviously the Brother O'Gowan says he'll like take a watch, and you're woken up sort of at the dawn by the sounds of Brother O'Gowan shouting in a wondrous voice like, "It's a miracle! Gale be praised!"
What is it, brother?
He turns around to look at you. You can see that his eyes are back to normal, and he's got like a smile on his face, like tears are running down his cheeks, and he's like, "Praise be to Gale, my sight is restored."
That is indeed a wondrous miracle.
He sort of grabs hold of your arm and he's like, "Thank you 1,000 times, thank you."
You're very welcome. And I'd like to examine Jackdaw and see if his tentacles have also disappeared.
You examine Jackdaw and you find that he no longer has the tentacles on his back.
Okay. So then I would like to cast Cure Light Wounds on him and wake him up. Jesus. That's a pathetic 2 hit points. But okay, so two more than you had.
Yeah, so you've got 2 hit points back from that and 1 hit point from the day's rest. So you're up to 3 hit points. So you start waking up, Jackdaw. Unsurprisingly, you feel like you've been run over by a giant tree. But she 10 does not the word for it, but you slowly start opening your eyes and there's like a bit of blood like crusted on your eyes. You're like wiping away. Obviously Brother O'Gowan offers you some water and stuff like that, but you start opening your eyes. You can see the friar stood there. He's still got a few bits of this like pink goo on him, obviously having tried to clean it off though. And you sort of look around and you can see like the ruined abbey around you, and you're in this like crude sort of wooden moss shelter that the friar has made.
So I'll wince and I'll croak. Did we get the fucking tree?
Yes, we did. We did. You distracted it, and I took it down.
Let's call it that.
Yeah. How are you feeling?
Not good. But I've been worse, I guess. I was dead for a time, so before. So this is good. It's good that it hurts. Lets me know that I'm still here, maybe, and I'll push myself up.
Yep. It's painful, but you push yourself into a sitting position.
Yep.
So once he's up and moving, I'll cast a second Cure Light Wounds.
Go for it.
See if this one. Oh my god! This is absolutely ridiculous.
Obviously, the exertions of the previous evenings are starting to tell, even on you, Fry Dunston, despite the rest. I mean, you've not really got a good night's sleep. You've been in this crude shelter, so you are starting to feel the strain of it. You feel it, you could do one of those like sweet beds back at Prigwort, is what you're thinking. But you do manage to sort of like slightly bolster Jackdaw up.
Okay. So. Okay. Did we examine the well? Does anyone remember?
Nope.
Okay.
You talked about
I think we went to the tower ruin, and then we went off to look at this stuff that we've been dealing with, but I think we skipped the well.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. And we haven't been in the Abbot's quarters either then, right?
No.
No. Okay. So, are you up for a bit of exploring, Jackdaw, or would you like to rest for another day?
Where's my axe? What are you thinking?
I think we should examine the Abbot's quarters because I'm still concerned about what's going on in the bell tower and the mausoleum. Even though the worst of the unnatural stuff here has been dealt with.
Well, did the tree have the book? The book that we saw in the, I don't know what that was, but the book that I had before I didn't have it.
I have that.
Sorry. I must have hit my head, and I'll give him a smile.
Yes. I have that.
Let's go see about the abbot then.
Okay.
And I'll use my axe as a walking stick.
No problems. So you make your way over to the ruined abbot's quarters. They look as though they were once a set of chambers that were quite luxurious. You can see signs of there having once been like a separate parlour, maybe a study and a bedroom, and the rooms are sort of semi-intact, but over the years they've been exposed to the elements. The roof is missing, the walls are crumbling. You can see the remains of ruined furniture, what looks to be the remnants of a large oak four-poster dresser, maybe some bookshelves and a desk. They appear to have been pretty much thoroughly smashed, and as you're searching through these ruins, you find a skeletal body, although it still has traces of flesh clinging to it, so it can't be an ancient body, and it appears to be one of similar to like the strange beast men that you confronted when you first arrived in Emerald. It's lying on the ground, and it has a number of crude sort of wounds on it, as though someone had like stabbed it repeatedly with a very crude weapon. With your knowledge of weapons, Jackdaw, you'd guess it was some sort of like crude, like improvised knife, or maybe a machete was used on it.
Okay.
You can also see a couple of like round puncture marks, sort of like in its torso, that you can't really identify. But you think that those 2 round puncture marks were like the killing blow, effectively.
Mm. So what do you think of this?
I don't know.
To be fair, there's a lot here that I can't really put into context. I don't understand this.
Can we kind of do a pretty thorough search and just make sure there's nothing else hiding in the room that might have done this?
You do a thorough search. You don't find anything of value. It looks as though, as you examine the furniture, it looks as though it's been like deliberately and spitefully destroyed, like just smashed apart and thrown about.
Okay.
You do find what appear to be a number of like footprints, or they look more like hoof marks, but not the giant hoof marks of the tree creature. So like smaller, sort of more like human-sized hoof prints.
Okay.
So quite a number of them. They appear to sort of head up to the abbot's quarters and then head back into the surrounding forest.
Okay. Okay, so we think that like a troop of beastmen came here and destroyed it, left one of their own, and then they had hooves, those beastmen, did they?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe they perform some kind of, I don't know what they would call it, as sacrilegious ceremony here.
Okay. And there's nothing else in the room? There's no trapdoors in the floor or anything like that at all that might...
Not as far as you can see.
Okay. 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 Okay, so maybe let's check the well and see what, if anything, is going on there.
Okay, you head over to the well, and to the south of it you can see the remnants of what look to be the remains of ruined courtyard walls. You see the remnants of long overgrown flower beds, as though this is perhaps once some sort of garden, although the flower beds are long since overgrown with wild plants, and all the sort of paving stones are cracked and chipped. At the centre stands a crumbling stone well, almost completely concealed beneath a dense covering of thorns.
Okay. Okay, so can we try and pull the thorns off it and see if, when we look down, what we can see?
Yep, you pull the thorns off, being quite careful when you do so, and you peer down into it. You see sort of far below you what appears to be a layer of like brackish water at the bottom of the well. It looks as though like quite sort of befouled, as though it's obviously not been used for some time. Like bits of dirt and bits of stone have fallen into it.
Okay. So can I throw down a stone and see if it disturbs, and is there any indication of how deep it is?
You throw a stone down, it goes boom into the water.
Okay. So relatively deep. Okay. How deep is it before I see the water?
About 30 feet.
Okay. Okay. So, using Jackdaw's rope, if he's okay with it, I will
Yep.
take out my pearl and climb down.
Yeah, no problems. You take out your pearl, you climb down into the water. Obviously the pearl allows you to breathe underwater and act freely. So you dip into the water, you have no problems breathing.
Okay. And do I see anything, or is it just a well?
It just appears to be a well.
Okay.
However, as you continue sort of exploring with the freedom of action that your pearl lends you, You eventually spot what appears to be a skeletal body of a monk at the bottom of the well. Perhaps he sought safety here from whatever unholy conflagration consumed the rest of the abbey. And as you're searching around, you see the body appears to be holding onto a golden chalice, sort of like clutching it to itself.
Okay. So I'll take the chalice and put it in my bag and do what I can to get the monk out of the well.
Yeah, no problem. It takes a little bit of effort, but you eventually heave this skeletal monk wrapped in sodden cloth out of the well. You also have a small golden chalice worth 50 gold pieces.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so once I have the monk out, I will bury him in the graveyard.
Okay.
And then this kind of structure over here, just southwest of the ruined chapel. Is there anything there?
No, that just appears to be more walls that once probably formed the remains of this courtyard.
Okay. Okay, so okay. So over the next day or so, I'd like to take all of the skeletal remains out of the ruined chapel and bury them all.
Okay, so that takes you a couple of days to do all of that, so you get 2 hit points back, Jackdaw. Obviously, if you're injured as well, Fry, you get 2 hit points back. Because obviously you're resting plenty while you're doing this, you're not exhausting yourself.
Perfect. Okay.
And as night falls on the second day, you've just finished the burials and you've said your prayers over them. Off in the distance, in the forest, you start to hear a faint but growing louder, slow, sonorous drum beat.
Okay.
That appears to be getting louder and louder. And as you look through the trees, you can see shadowy figures approaching the site of the abbey. Many of them sport large curled horns from their foreheads, and you can hear the sounds of braying and shouting in the distance, the drum beats growing ever closer. And that is where we're going to end the session for today.
Yeah, I was just getting ready for another successful round of combat.
Well, thank you very much for playing, guys. I hope you all enjoyed the session.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, yeah.
Obviously, I'll sort out the XP over the course of the next week and post that up to you. I'm happy to chat for a bit afterwards, but for now I'm just going to say thanks to my players for playing and to anyone who's watching either now or in the future. And I'm going to end the stream, so take care. We'll catch you all soon.
Bye.